Okay, Tiffy, here we go.
Good morning, Yolanda.
Good morning, Tiffany.
Yolanda, wake up. Yolanda, wake up.
Honey, well, I'm trying. I'm sure our conversation will spark something.
Yeah, I knew it
Is this
would.
thing on? Yeah.
It is, yes.
Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Mind
Hello.
Body Energy Project.
Yes. Hello, community.
So, how have you been this week?
Well, my foot's going through a whole new phase of healing this week, which I guess it's doing some heavier duty work because I've been getting a lot of weird pains going through it, which has been really interesting.
Ah,
Yeah, but I'm not panicking a lot.
like just nerves? Something happening with the nerves?
Maybe, I guess so. Yeah. Yeah, maybe some of like the little workers that are in there that are like putting the bones back together and, cementing things in. Maybe they're just like maneuvering around some nerves or
They're
something.
tapping on you, like, girl, please sit down. Sit down. That's what they're doing. Like, please sit.
We trying to work here.
You know,
Keep moving things around.
oh, Tiffy's always on the go. Oh,
Yeah, so that's about that. How has your week been?
my week has been fine. I don't know, to tell you the truth. It seems like a whirlwind. Like it all seems like a blur. I can't even tell you. But I am doing the medical Reiki training this weekend.
So exciting.
Yeah. And I think once that's over, honestly, I feel like actually just once this month is over, I feel like I'll be back to, because the last couple months have just been a lot.
You just want to
So,
get to my birthday.
oh, is
Isn't
that
that
what it? Yes, I
yeah.
am excited for your birthday. That's going to be like my new year. Mhm. Speaking of your birthday,
Yeah. Which is November 3rd.
yes, we are almost though. Actually, the day this airs will be the first day of Scorpio season.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So happy birthday to all the Scorpios out there.
Yeah. Happy birthday, my fellow Scorps.
Yeah. How do you feel about this season? Anything in particular?
Scorpio season or the season of my life? Or
So, well,
because I have
Scorpio.
a lot of feelings about a lot of things.
I have
But
Buddha on my shirt. I really am trying to like,
he's cute.
yeah.
I'd show you what's on my shirt, but I don't know if it's appropriate.
Yeah, I already saw it.
You did.
Uh-huh. It's like, yes, it is a bad word. That's so funny. Scorpio season. How do you
Mhm.
feel about, or are you already feeling it? Does
I am.
anything
Yeah.
come to you just around the season?
I woke up this morning and was just like having some senses, and I was like, this feels like Scorpio energy is upon us. And then I wasn't sure what the date was. And then I looked at my phone. I was like, okay, we're close. We're not there yet, but it's quickly coming upon us.
It is.
Hmm.
Can we? This is really odd, and thank God we're not doing this live. Can we pause the recording for 2.5?
Yeah.
Just 2 seconds.
Are you going to cut that?
No.
Not that either, huh?
And we're back.
We're back.
It was like just no pause for anybody but us. But okay, so Scorpio season,
Yes.
yeah, I think the last few months, like I said, they were really busy. And Scorpio season, even though like what comes up around it is, transformation and like for me, I think it's like, I don't know why the word like deep examination is coming up, because
Hmm.
Scorpio is related to that too. So I feel like this season, I do want to take a pause during Scorpio season and kind of allow myself to examine or reflect on even just what has been going on in the last few months and kind of like check my baseline. And in fact, now that I'm saying that, Mercury goes retrograde on Halloween. So it's also a good time
Oh, that's gonna be
for
fun.
some like, reflection. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm planning on pumping the brakes and kind of reviewing, revisiting, revising, all of that
I
good
like
stuff.
how you're bringing up the fact that you're aligning your life with the energy of what's up and coming versus creating this idea of what you think you need to be doing and then pushing through that and maybe coming up against some limitations or some obstacles because you're not honoring the energy of now and how you're syncing up with that energy,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Mm.
think is a really good segue to our topic too, because we're taking more looks at how we're integrating with these ideologies and maybe testing out these grounds of structuring our life around these other things
Mm-hmm.
and seeing how the flow of that works.
Yeah, no, that's totally it. And I've been doing it for a few years now, but I have like this free download called Creating with the Moon and Stars. And that's exactly what it is. It goes month by month, highlighting whatever the energy is of the month is based on the sign that the sun will be in predominantly for that month.
Mm-hmm.
And it's exactly for that reason. So instead of not understanding the energies that we move into, like how can we most align with them or use them to our benefit instead of fighting against them? Because even something like this season, right? You would think if you didn't know what was going on, you might, every time there's a shift or change or transition, if we don't get it, we often fight against it and
Mm-hmm.
cause more problems for ourselves.
Right.
Whereas if it's something we understand, just like the monthly updates that you and I used to do, I thought they were, I mean, those type of things, it's invaluable because it really
Right.
does let us decide like, oh, how can I navigate this upcoming month?
Yeah. And there is a fine line between utilizing it to understand or utilizing it as a crutch,
Right.
because there's a lot of memes out there making fun of Mercury retrograde, being like, Mercury retrograde made me do it. Or people being like, listen, bitch, you did this to yourself. Stop blaming it on Mercury retrograde,
Yeah.
and there's truth to both of those.
Mm-hmm.
But if we are constantly fighting against something and creating resistance when we're just out of alignment with whatever is going on or out of alignment with ourselves, then we start to get really like broken down and beaten up on ourselves. And then that's not progressive for anything or anybody. We start to self-blame and then go into these pits of despairs or dark night of the soul and have to reevaluate everything.
That just even speaks to like the whole issue when we lack understanding about anything in general, like across the
Mm-hmm.
board. Anytime we don't understand something or don't even take the time to investigate or understand, we usually go into judgment and create chaos and create stories that really weren't even necessary. So yeah, I think too, that kind of goes with, Scorpio season. Use this season to examine, to
Mm-hmm.
understand something, like anything that you're questioning or anything that you maybe feel triggered by. Like, don't just be in judgment and fight against it. Stop, pause, and see what can actually be a benefit in whatever may be going on.
Yeah. And there's a capacity that could serve you. And I just lost my train of thought. It's I forgot. That train completely fell off the track, went down a mountainside, and it's never to return.
Well, you did try to segue us, and somehow I
I know
poo-pooed on your segue.
no,
I'm
there was
sorry.
another good segue though, and
I'm
I think that's where I
sorry.
lost. But yeah, we
Yeah,
should talk about what the
topic is,
topic
but
is.
even what we just said also segues into it because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the work that we do and other people do within the realm of what we've now umbrellaed as spirituality supports us in a broad way of helping us with perspective and helping us with understanding. So yeah. So anyway, we wanted to talk about how this spirituality, like the business of it, the awareness of it, all of it is booming, and like why that's
Mm-hmm.
happening.
I remembered what it was.
What
I
was
found
it?
the train. That when we're skeptical of something or we want to poo-poo it, that our triggers are very informative as well. And if you're being triggered by something, if you were to really lean into what that trigger is and understand it, then it might open up some doors of not being triggered by whatever thing, because then you can gain a greater understanding of yourself as to why it's triggering.
Yeah, and even you made me think of, I was just talking to someone about this the other day. It's interesting how a lot of times in our ignorance, we could just like poo-poo something and not even really have valid reason other than just like, but there's really nothing. Maybe you heard someone else say something about it, so you just took that on as truth without investigating, and now all
Mm-hmm.
of a sudden you're just regurgitating what you heard, which if you really took the time to understand it, you may have a totally different viewpoint. So that could be a whole nother show. Like, goodness
Oh
gracious.
yeah.
We have talked about that before, though, the importance of using your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway,
So the industry,
the
it's
industry we're in.
booming.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It is interesting, I have to say. I feel like when I first started in all of this, there weren't a lot of memes and there wasn't a lot of information. Trying to get my light to fix. There wasn't a lot of information out there about all of this. And in fact, I only heard about Reiki because someone told me that I should have it done as a session. So I had to Google, like I had to investigate, like I had to find what this thing was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, I mean, it really is. It's just all over the place in some form, whether, like you said, people talking about Mercury retrograde, people talking about crystals, people talking about energy work, people talking about all of these things. And yeah, so like even for you, do you see a difference now from when you started? And what do you think has caused all of it?
Oh, that's a great question. Remember that question, because as I go through this story, I'm probably going to forget that that's a question I want to come back to.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I've always been really intuitive. I've kind of always had a sense for like otherworldly realm kind of stuff and an interest in it. So it wasn't unnatural for me to step into Reiki. And as you were saying that, I tried to remember when I first heard about it, but I can't recall, because for me, it's always just kind of been, my path has always led me down to where I am now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I started with athletics and then sports medicine and personal training. And for me, it was always about being fascinated about the physical body and what it was capable of and how do we take it to the next level. And then I started and I was interested in psychology too. So I was just interested how the mind worked. And then I started bringing the two together, and I'd read like neuroscience books, just trying to understand the mental capacity fixing with the physical capacity, and them being married and science-based. It was kind of blowing my mind. So it kind of just like naturally took me on when I went from physical into like then yoga. And I admittedly, like a lot of people, just started doing yoga because I needed to stretch, you know, and I
Mm-hmm.
started with Bikram yoga. So if you want to talk about things not being spiritual, go to Bikram yoga.
That was very spiritual, honey. Bikram changed my life.
Okay. Yes. Yes. I should
Honey, I was
say,
in a bad space when I went
okay,
to Bikram, and it was like, whoo.
you're right. There are spiritual things that can happen, but the traditional teachings of the spirituality of yoga are not really implemented into a Bikram class. Is that fair to
No,
say?
yeah. I mean, no, they don't talk about, yeah, no. I mean,
Yeah,
they do not. But honey,
right.
it was like,
It is a spiritual,
ah,
because
it was
the way
opening
that
up
you
to
get in,
myself.
yes,
Yeah.
the way you get into your body and how much it breaks you down, I guess. And that's what I have heard. I had a friend who did a teacher training, and she said one of the things he does is to break you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually in order to rebuild. Now, coming from that guy, I don't know that I would trust it, but that's my own opinion. Anyways, we all perceive things in different aspects, right?
Mm-hmm.
His spirituality is his spirituality, mine is mine. But and another thing too, like a stepping stone for me is I'm a huge believer in therapy, like talk therapy. I think we should all be doing it like at least just once a month for checking in for our mental status, especially this day and age when things are so overstimulating. But for me, I got to a point where I kind of hit a ceiling with my talk therapy, and I was like, okay, I'm graduating, and that's when Reiki came into my life, and that's what took me to the next level of understanding myself and how just like this all fits in, and how that was going to be what was going to help guide my life going forward. Um, so the question was, why do I
Why do you
think it's
think this
become?
is, yeah, so popular? Like
Yeah,
just anything under the umbrella of spirituality now.
I think it's kind of similar to the growth of my own journey that I've explained. You know, like we're learning more and we're needing more. We're needing more now because our our technological advances have kind of like pushed us past our physical limits. You know, the amount that our psyche can actually handle the overstimulation of social media and how fast it's actually going. Our minds can't, our body can't keep up with what we're processing in our minds. So like we have to expand beyond just what this physical form is in order to like rein it all back in, you know, and to like really get tapped into our true nature, which is nature, and to bring that all back in sync. And I think that these are the modalities now that are being expressed in order to help us understand that.
That's the thing. Like, I wonder if it's like a, it kind of highlights and speaks to collective evolution. Because
Mm-hmm.
as you were saying that, the image that I was seeing in the background of my mind was, remember in the 80s, there were those workout videos with the ladies in like leotards and
Yeah.
like, there was like such a thing. I don't even know,
Uh-huh.
whatever. That
I
was
did a few
the
of those when
thing.
I was a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I had Get in Shape Girl. Remember? You could go buy it at the toy store. Yeah, they even had it as toys, like Get in Shape Girl.
Yeah.
It came with a cassette tape and like whatever, like dumbbells, or
Yeah.
I had the
The whole little package.
wand thing. Yeah.
Yep. The ribbon.
The ribbon. Yes. I had the
Yeah.
ribbon.
Oh, that was
And
my favorite.
yeah, so now that we're even saying it's interesting how there seems to be uh yeah, like I wonder if it's like a collectively how things progress and shift and evolve into like what our point of focus may be. Because everything seems to have like a it season, right?
Yes.
And I mean, granted, in this realm of spirituality, there are so many things to choose from. I mean, you have
Mm-hmm.
energy work, you have crystals, like we said, you have like psychic work, you have all of these different things. But I wonder even what that points to. One, I think it's oh no, I'm not sure why it's popular. I wonder if it's popular honestly because of social media, and because people do kind of all uh everybody will end up focusing on the same thing. Like if you see it enough, then you like kind of get on the train with it.
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say it would be nice to think that it's become so popular because of the shifts that it's created in people's lives, which I think is true for a lot of people. But the truth
Mm-hmm.
is, a lot of people that are putting stuff out there about this work haven't necessarily done that deep dive with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Could be
don't know.
trendy.
Yeah, like I
It
wonder
could
if
be
it's
trendy.
like, it seems like it's all over the place right now because it's trendy in some ways,
Mm-hmm.
but I wonder if it really will pick up the momentum of people actually
Yeah.
like going in deep diving with it.
Well, and here's the thing too. With um, the level of exposure that we have now with everything, and people just want to make money, and a lot of people just want to work from home, and it really makes it exceptional to say, oh, I'm going to build a class to put it out there and just rake my money in, and a lot of people are very good at that. If you're a good marketer, if you're a good person of like an artistic person that can make something look really pretty on the outside but has no depth to it, people are being sold that and they're buying into that too,
Mm-hmm.
so like we live in a time right now where that is really easy to do. And truthfully, that's one of the things that gets me really bent out of shape sometimes, because you, it's really easy to make things look pretty and, get them out there and market them, be really good on video to sell it. But is that what's being sold really going to help and support people?
I think that's what some people want, because again, to the point, I don't think everyone necessarily wants to go beneath the surface, dear
Yeah.
Scorpio. Like I think some people do just want to keep it pretty, and some people
Yeah.
just want to go with the whole like, light and love, and like
Yeah.
I think that might be a part of it too. I think there's some identification with why it may be popular, where like if I'm spiritual, I am telling you that I am a caring person, or I am an evolved person, or I am a, do you know what I mean? So I think
Yeah.
there's this idea of that label highlighting you being this like cool person. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think honestly, that may be part of the popularity with it.
Yeah.
However, um,
Are you
I,
talking about the spiritual band-aid?
the spiritual costumes, really.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that wave is kind of coming down in some ways, where there are more people now that are like questioning and like,
Yeah.
no, there's something more to this, and I need to go deeper, and these types of things. So I think there's just two sides of the coin. I think there's some people that just like it because it seems like cool and fun,
Yeah.
and then I think there are some people who like it because they genuinely want to create change in their life. So,
Mm-hmm.
where you have so like such a diverse group of why people are called to it, I guess that's what expands the popularity too, because it's not just one dimensional in terms of
Mm-hmm.
why people are connected to it.
And let's just be real about this. No matter where you fall in line to this, your journey is going to take you where you need to go to
Mm-hmm.
heal, to grow, to evolve anyways. So
Yeah.
wherever you find yourself, it's going to push you forward depending on how you choose to navigate it and direct it.
Yeah. And that's part of the reason I think about it, that why I started podcasting was because when I got into all of this, it was all the pretty fluffy stuff. Like no one told me about the dark night. Nobody told me about like
You hadn't
what
met
goes
me yet.
on beneath the surface. And I didn't have community then or anything. So I was going through all of those deep transformations by myself. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
what the F is this? Like nobody told me about this, you know? But luckily there was something in me that kind of knew and understood that I was changing or something was healing or something was happening. But
Mm-hmm.
that was part of the reason why I wanted to podcast, was to talk about what was really happening from the point of view of my experience, because I figured there had to be other people out there that were
Yeah.
having similar experiences, you know? But I want to go back to what you said about a lot of people get into this because they want to work from home and this stuff. Just going to be real honest with you. I think one of the highlights of what you said, Tiffany, is true. If you're really good at like marketing, like a lot of people are good with like Instagram and Facebook
Mm-hmm.
and these things, they might be great at it. However, I believe people make it looks easier from the outside than it really is.
Oh,
So if
yeah.
there is a thought of like, oh, I'm going to do that because it looks easy and I love it, it's not.
Nope.
It really isn't, because you have to consider from behind the scenes, like what these people are, regardless of the depth or what their product is, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes that you don't see. You just
Mm-hmm.
see what the final thing is. And you don't, there's a lot of investment in it. There's a lot of time in it. It's not like 9 to 5, you punch out the clock. Like it's not necessarily like easier.
Yeah. But that's the thing too, I think people are starting to say like, oh, that's a cool thing. I don't have to go into a financial job and like dress up in business casual and get into an office and do this all day. I could talk about spirituality and do all these other things. I think initially it does look really fluffy and easy and comfortable. And, we have the accessibility to do it now. So it's like, yeah, I'll get into spirituality and present all this stuff, before even understanding, like diving in how much work actually goes into doing all of it.
I have to say though, two things. What you said made me think. One that's interesting is a lot of corporate jobs now participate in what they call like work-life balance. So even a lot of corporate arenas now, people are having an opportunity to work from home,
Yeah.
which is really freaking cool. I actually have, when I was in corporate, I got to work from home 3 days a week, which was
That's a
great.
lot.
Yeah, 3 days a week.
Wow.
And I only had to come in on any of those days if I had a meeting. But other than that, 3 days a week, I got to work from home. It was
Wowzers.
great. But
Yeah.
um, anyway, another thing with that is, even though I'm saying like it's not easy it's one thing to be on your practice, but it's another layer when you want to make your practice like, work or your business. And I get why people do it, because I'm going to say the people that like genuinely like want to help. Like a lot of people who get into this work, they get into it and they not only want to help themselves, but they want to support and help other people. So I get it. But the thing is too, I have to say that aspect of it also was a big part of my healing process,
Mm-hmm.
because I thought like, oh, do you just like make it and they'll come? Like, no, it wasn't like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, oh, you just work really hard behind the scenes and then present something. Like, listen,
Oh, yeah.
there was a lot of growth in
Uh-huh.
those experiences as well. So it's interesting how uh, one of the things I will say about this work is you start to see the the ways that you are pushed to grow spiritually as a
Mhm.
person, blah, blah, blah. And like every area of your life contributes to that.
And I think that's another good point as to why this has become so popular, because people are, like yoga came on the scene and all of it and started to like popping up with like core power yogas and all these like hardcore workout places. And then, people would be like, oh, cool, a different type of workout. But then they would find themselves like then their mental capacities start integrating with their physical capacities, and they're being challenged by things that they thought were going to be easy. I can't tell you how many times people come into a yoga class and they're like, I can't understand why something that looks so simple is so challenging.
Yes.
And that's what pushes you to the next level of like understanding whether you want to put the work in or not, and how that work is very dynamically different. It's not just physical anymore. Now it's mental, now it's emotional. And then that's what takes you into the spirituality path of it. And then you start to expand your ceilings of you-ness, essentially, finding that there's more to you and then working with that. And I think that's what's also made it more popular too, is that it's pushed people out into other areas because they're starting to understand and see new things about themselves.
Now that you say that, I think another thing probably that has made this work very popular too is it absolutely creates like a deep sense of community,
Mm-hmm.
in a way that a lot of other things may not. So say, for example, if you say, I want to just go work out, like some people go to a gym and it's very isolated. I mean, you're surrounded by people, but you're not necessarily like, there's no camaraderie or like, you just go in, do what you're going to do and you leave. Whereas there's a lot of connection in this work, whether people are doing group work or going to classes together, but also just, again, like sharing stories of what their healing processes are, or sharing what new techniques may be, tips, and all of these things. There's a huge sense of community around this work. And I think even without recognizing it, a lot of people are receiving healing from that, from feeling like they're getting supported, or they're not alone, or having courage to do this work for themselves because they see other people are doing it. So I think the community part is huge as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
my,
Yeah.
my mind just wandered.
I wonder where it's going to go, though. I mean, speaking of like how some things become more trendy, because like, for example, I remember I don't know how long ago. I'm going to say maybe 5 years ago. I feel like I was hearing law of attraction stuff all over the place. Like that was the focus. Like people were, and granted, I know there are some people still, there's a lot of talk about manifestation and these things, but it was like everywhere you looked, that's all people were talking about.
Yeah.
And then it transitioned into, I don't know, like then for a while, like it seemed like everybody's on like a particular type of energy technique. And then everybody,
Yeah.
crystals right now. Ooh, honey. I mean, crystals have, before it was like a couple of people talked about it. Now it's like everybody's talking about crystals, right? So it'll be really interesting to see how it continues to evolve and where we get as we go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that just speaks to our human nature, and maybe more so here in the US, like the culture that we live in, where we do have an instant gratification programming, and we do have like, we're on to the next best thing. We're always constantly looking for that next thing. The yoga, what are you laughing at?
Wait, because I just thought of, just sorry, just really quick. I remember the little bracelets, like you would make them. I made them before too, like the little beaded bracelets, the crystal bracelets that people would wear. People still do wear, but I remember when at first they were like, like in the spirituality realm. Then
Like
all of a
these?
sudden, yes, like those. But then all of a sudden they were at like Neiman Marcus.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Well, and that
Yeah.
speaks to exactly what we were saying before. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
people are into this. I could profit off of it. Cool. I'm going to make that $5 bracelet cost $35.
What
Yeah.
are you talking? Those people sell those for hundreds of dollars for one bracelet.
I
I've
can't
seen
even.
bracelets for over $100, babe.
I can't. I can't.
Oh, yes.
I can't. Ugh. Also, being a person who's made jewelry for a very long time, I'm just mad at myself, really. Anyways,
No, but I mean, but yeah, okay.
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying it is. It's really interesting. So I have to mention this.
Yeah.
Speaking of, because now this work and these things are so on the radar, and I told Tiffany this right before coming on, that someone posted on my private Facebook group that there was a proposition that was trying to be, that is, they're trying to pass in Massachusetts that would cause people that do uh, alternative and complementary work, such as energy work, reflexology, these types of things, they would have to receive licensing. And anyway, they're trying to regulate it. And I believe the vote on it is on the 28th, if I'm not mistaken. But I just want to tell people, in case, especially if you live in Massachusetts too, you may want to look this up. It is S as in Sam 168. That is the bill. It's an act regulating body works. So anyway, I bring that up to say, because it is more visible now, that's one of the scary things about it, where you may have then other people, other parties that try to come in and regulate something, just like you said before, that they don't even understand and has not, and it's just about profit. So
Yeah.
if you are practicing, and especially if it's the work that you do, that's really something you want to keep your eye on.
Yeah. Um,
That was my PSA.
thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that. Um, yeah, but thank you for it, because there's a lot of people who didn't know about that, like
Mm-hmm.
me, and just because, you know, it's a sacred thing, and you don't think people are going to infiltrate the sacredness of something, but they do. They always do, because we're humans. Which brings me back to the topic of like instant gratification and why we are turning over trends so quickly and always looking for something new. And it's especially here in America, because that's kind of how we're trained. And one of the yoga practices that I've studied and I teach is the master who created it went to India and studied for 5 years, and the practice is based in transformation. So we do Kriya work, and we do 3 here in the States. But when he was studying in India, they did 9. They did 9 sets of this repetitive exercise over and over again in order to get the body to transform, because that's what it takes. But when he brought it back here, he had to take it down to 3 sets, because we're just not prepared to sit and do 9 sets of something that is repetitive and seemingly tedious, because we haven't gotten our mind into the body enough that each one of those 9 sets would be different every time, because we're in it and we're seeing like what the transformation is. We're applying like what's going to happen. So I think that in other countries, I think that some of them may be more well set up to dedicate more time to something standard, like Ayurvedic has been around for thousands of years, because they've used it, they believe in it, they keep doing it. Whereas here we're just like, oh yeah, it's crystals this month, it's yoga next month, it's this new thing next month.
But that's where I think a lot of people get concerned with like appropriation, and a lot of people get upset with not having a respect for like these different modalities and philosophies and teachings, and see it as like it comes to the West and it's kind of uh,
Just a
it's
fun thing to do.
no, it's like there's a deep lack of understanding or respect for it,
Yeah.
which can be
Yeah.
very upsetting to people, and understandably so. But I
Mm-hmm.
think, bringing it back to us and our own responsibility and accountability, I think it speaks to, again, like, a lot of things become popular, and then there's like this surface level understanding, or like what makes it seem like a cool thing. However, I mean, especially if it's something you're going to bring into your life for your own practice, it would make sense to really do your due diligence and study and understand like where whatever the practice you're practicing, where it comes from. And
Mm-hmm.
but more so what I was thinking about it is, over here, we tend to be very rigid in our opinions of things, you know, like I see a lot of fighting in the Reiki community of people thinking like their system of Reiki is better than somebody else's, and like a lot of judgment back and forth and blah, blah, blah. Right. And it's like, I don't care who your teacher was. Like, we're all living over here in the West. That's what I'm talking about here more specifically. And so like, we all have to recognize there are aspects of those teachings that we wouldn't understand even from a cultural standpoint. So not
Right.
even like there's a lack of like cultural understanding in the way things may have been translated. Just like you said, the yoga teacher changed things to make it easier for Westerners. So did Miss Takata. She made some adaptations for it to be more digestible and understandable here, talking about Reiki. But even you're talking about a system that was developed in 1922. So not only do we have cultural references we may not fully understand, it was also a different time period. So however it originated, there have been so many adaptations and
Mm-hmm.
changes as it's come here that I don't think any of us could have like, or should have like the gall to be like, my way is absolutely right and I'm the best, like this and that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it's like I think it's amazing that we all get to share. And I think it's amazing that we all get to learn from each other. But it's like, especially with this work, don't lose sight of the work being about you. Like, what are you doing with it? Instead of like, you know, judging everybody over there. Like, what are you doing? How is it changing you? How are you applying it to you? What
Mm-hmm.
can you learn about it? Like, how is it a staple in your life?
Yeah. Because, and we've talked about this many times, it's always an underlying theme in the MBE project is that everything has a perspective. And the
Mm-hmm.
way one person sees something, even though you're looking at the same thing, we're going to interpret it differently because we have different lenses based on our experiences,
Yeah.
and our conditioning and whatever we're working on to change or not change. And the other component of it is that everything is ever evolving constantly. The only constant is change. So to think that something is going to remain exactly as it is kind of the point of ignorance to a degree, because then you do become intolerable of change and you do close your eyes to seeing like how something might be shifting and what that means. And a lot of times we close ourselves off to that because we're afraid of change. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want to change because that requires us to re-examine and us to readapt.
Well, there's a couple of things with this I would say. Like, I think it's important, part of it, the educating ourselves on whatever it is that we may be into, so that we're not perpetuating the mm, let's say the fuckery, but really, like, so
Can we make t-shirts
it kind of,
that say stop perpetuating the fuckery?
yes. But it makes me think of, for example, like say tarot, right? You know, there used to be a lot of there still is, but not to the same degree, where there was a lot of fear around it and people thought like, oh, this terrible thing, and like, oh, it's
They're
so awful.
worshiping the devil.
But then as more people actually started to educate themselves about it, the system, the meaning of the cards, the interpretations, blah, 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 then that myth starts to fade, or the fear around it that was just passed down in a lot of ways. And we won't
Mm-hmm.
get into all the reasoning, but all of that starts to change, right? So even with this work in the realm of spirituality, you know, there will be some people who are really out there. And like, listen, I'm out there too, to some degree. But some people will look at that and go like, see, they're a bunch of kukas. Like, what is this crap? However, there are some people who are very like, also take this work and are very practical about it, very grounded, where it can be understood by anybody. What I want to say about that is, again, if you're in this realm or you're doing this work, remember though not to judge either side of it, because there's enough of that going on, enough people already struggling to be able to accept what they believe in, accepting the changes they're going through, accepting that their lens is changing. Like, they don't need more people telling them like they're kukas, right?
Yeah.
But there's also something for everybody. So I say that to say, I think that's another reason why this is so popular, because honey, there is something for everybody
Mm-hmm.
within this realm. Like, whatever your point of focus is, whatever piques your interest, there's
Mm-hmm.
something for you.
Yeah. And back to what you said about like, when you fix your eyes on something, that's what you're going to see. So if you're fixing your eyes on the kukas
Mhm.
or whatever your judgment of a kuka is, and you keep your eyes fixed on that, you're going to miss the ones that are doing the work, that are grounded and that could connect with you.
Mhm. But you might like the cookie stuff too. Like, listen, like
Yeah.
I do, you know me, like
Yeah.
I'm very grounded and practical in a lot of ways, but some other things, like everything is interesting to me. Like listen, if
Yeah.
you know me, I think everything is interesting. Now, do I necessarily buy into everybody's point of view? No. Do I hear some things that I'm just like, I can't get with that? Of course, like, of course. But that's where a big thing in this too, especially because it has become so popular, is use your discernment. Like, trust your gut with some things. If
Mm-hmm.
one thing you see puts you off, again, don't throw everything away. Like, do your own research. Like, see,
Yeah.
just
And do your own
yeah.
research of yourself so that you know what it is you want to find. Because I think a lot of times we can get swept up in the glamour or the fantasy or mysticism, I should say, of something, and then gravitate towards that because we're not grounded in ourselves to see, like, is this thing actually going to serve me, or am I just like, is it?
Yeah, but you're okay. This is why it's good that me and you are so opposite. Because some people are like,
That's a
Tiffany.
nice way of her saying, like,
No, because remember you said the other day, even on another podcast, how you're the one that's like, give me the roadmap. I want to know every single place I'm going to hit, what I'm going to do. Where me, I'm like, just show me the road and I'm going to hit it, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because for me, like, I didn't even know any of this crap. And so for me, it really was kind of like I heard about something and I was like, oh, what is that? But
yeah,
instead of just going off what other people said about it, I went to a class. So that's why
yeah,
I even studied so many things, because I would hear about something. I wanted to know if it resonated with me or not. So I took classes. Like, I would
yeah,
go take classes. Some panned out, some didn't, whatever. But I had to figure it out for myself. And I
right,
didn't know what I was looking for. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to figure out how not to be stressed out. That's
yeah.
that's it.
But the point that I was trying to make, that is that you do try things on, but you said resonates with you. Like, you're like, I needed to see if things resonate with me or not. I
Mm-hmm.
think that a lot of times people can go to a class to examine it, and because they're not grounded in themselves, everything's going to resonate because they're just like, you know, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and something, like, oh my God, this is great and fun, and then
Yeah, but
someone
some
else.
people are like that though.
This is how cults start.
No, see, listen, no,
This is going back to the Simpsons
no.
thing.
Again, that's why you're so lucky on this podcast. You have two people that are like night and day. Okay, this one doesn't want to try it. Me, I'm like, yes, like, give me the whole enchilada. I want the whole buffet. I'm gonna sample it all, and I'll let you know when I'm done what I actually liked. But I did. I did in the beginning, because again, there was like, all of this was popular then, but not as popular as now, but it still was gaining momentum. So there was a lot of like, there was like new something every day. There was like a new
Mhm.
modality coming out. There was a new, like, there was so much information out there that, yeah, I was like, ooh, what is all this? Like, let's go see. I want to go explore. But that's how I have to go, because I'm not going to trust anybody else anyway. Like, I have to give myself the experience to really trust
Oh
anything.
yeah, no, I agree with you. Experience is the best and only teacher, really.
Hmm.
You can read as many books or hear as much information, but until you try it on and, like, get your energy mingled in with that, you're not going to gain the wisdom from it at all.
Yeah. So now I'm curious to know, because the point of our conversation, we kind of went all over the map per
Oh, it was
usual.
weird.
Yeah. Who does that? But we wanted to talk about, we were just curious about like the popularity of things, like what potentially has made all of this so popular. But we would love to hear how you came into this work, like what drew you in. Was
Hmm.
it stuff that you were seeing online, or were you like actively seeking something for a particular reason? What got you here?
Yeah. And feel free to even, like, make a little video recording and post it on our Facebook page. We'd love
Hmm.
to, like, really interact and see, like, what your testimony of it is.
Yeah. And where you think this is going, like how it's going to evolve. I really, that is probably what I'm most curious about. Like, I wonder if it's going to be and especially because recently I've interviewed people who are doing Reiki in hospitals, and then I've interviewed 2 people who are therapists that also practice energy work. So I'm really curious to see how this evolves, and if we start to see more of that marriage of Western and alternative, but under the same roof.
Mm-hmm.
That should be
Yeah.
really interesting to see how this is going to integrate into what becomes normal.
Yeah, it'd be exciting.
Yeah, if they don't try to regulate everything.
They're going to. If it gets
Yeah,
that big and rampant, and
yeah.
especially into hospitals, it will be.
Yeah, so everybody definitely look into that. Actually, I'll put the
Yeah.
link to that proposition I was saying. I'll put it in the show notes so that you all can read about it, and just always, keep your eyes and ears open, because, we're in this together. Just because
Mm,
it's happening in Massachusetts doesn't mean like don't ignore it. Like pay
yeah, that's
attention.
right.
Yeah, we're all in this together. So
Keep your head on a swivel.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Uh, that's all I got, Tippy.
Yeah, same. You did
Okay.
good. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Now I can go wake up. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Bye.